In this video, we're going to talk about infinite loops. As you can see here in the infinite loops file, we have a couple of statements here that can execute more than a few times. Now, normally you have a while loop or for loop, even if conditions and things like that within your loops. If you don't set things up correctly, you may find that you never ever finish executing a block of code. For example, here we set I is equal to 1001, and then we're going to have a while loop that is saying, while I is greater than 1000, increment I, and then execute a block of code afterwards. Well, without this break statement here, this would pretty much just go on forever. Now, in the web world, it's a lot easier to deal with infinite loops. All you have to do is hit the stop button on your browser. But when you're writing Windows applications or Flash applications, it really can bog you down if you have an infinite loop. It just is something that's going to be a showstopper that you don't really want to have. So if we refresh this, for example, you can see that it's going on forever. I just click it over here again, and it's just going to keep going. You can see this number is already up to 1800, and it's just going on and on and on. You see that this down here, the status, it's going on, and you have to hit the stop button. And you know what? It can really mess you up, as you can see here. Now, a way to get out of that with that hourglass there that's going to keep going and going and going is to quickly go in, either make a syntax error or something. And you see that once I save the file, things get a little bit better. But a syntax error is something that really is going to help you. Save the file, and then refresh. You see it's bogging things down. And you actually sometimes have to just close your browser really quickly. But create a syntax error, refresh the page, and then get it to stop. You say, whew, okay, I didn't want that infinite loop there. So we just created that to stop it. But the thing is, if we just have that break statement in there at the end, just to make sure that we don't have an infinite loop, we can set a standard that way. And that could help us out a great deal. Sometimes you forget the incrementer here as well, and then it just goes on forever. In this case, we might have wanted to have $I is equal to something else like 900, and as long as it's less than 1000, we're okay. The break is the second line of defense. This can be the case in for loops as well, but it's not going to happen in a for loop if you correctly put your for loop together. You have everything here, but it's very easy to say $I is greater than 5, and then it's going to keep going. It just will never end. So you have to be aware of that. Most likely it happens in a while loop because you have a lot more control. So do use the break statement when you need to. It's definitely going to help you out a great deal. And you can see that if we have that there, the break is going to break on 1010. Here you see it won't stop until it gets to 1010. But in this case, we have I is less than 1000, so this never gets executed. We have to keep this in the bounds. So we will change it to 910 and see what happens. There you go. It executes really quickly. It stops at 910. It's a little bit extra to do that. So you really don't have to do this. Just keep an eye on the while loop part and your incrementer and your initial value. If you never set the initial value, for example, as well, it could really do the same thing. So that's infinite loops. And you can see that it could bog you down. Maybe you have to close the browser, hit stop, cause a syntax error, whatever you need to do to get it to stop. But it's not such a big deal unless it's something that's really doing something intensive on the server that you don't notice in a browser, because you can write server-side code to do just about anything. And in that case, it could bog down the server.